very end. And how am I going to survive this? How am I going to live this? When I fell to my very lowest point, Sheila, I think that is the point that I needed to be, at the lowest point where there was nothing left of myself. The only place that I could look was up. And that's exactly what God wanted me to do, is look up and depend totally upon Him.
One of the things I thought was beautiful is you end up in prison, which is crazy, and this sweet woman in a wheelchair gave you a piece of advice. What did she say to you, Alice?
She told me to bloom where you're planted. God knows where you are.
That's huge.
God knows where you are. And as the scripture says in Romans 8:28, that all things work together for the good, for those who love the Lord, for those who love God and are called according to His purpose. And it would be in prison that I would find my purpose.
Okay, so what was your relationship with Christ before, leading up and throughout your life?
Well, I grew up in a very strong Christian family. And I know people might wonder, well, how in the world did you end up walking in this, how did you end up on this path? When I was 14 years old, I turned my back on church. I literally, my heart was broken over something that I saw in church. And I said that this is not, in fact, I stood up in the middle of the church doing revival and said, announced to the whole congregation, there's more to God than this.
Whoa, that was prophetic.
That's what I said. I was 14. I said, I'll never raise my children in church. And I walked out. My mother, now I was born and raised in Mississippi. My mother was no nonsense. So can you imagine that shock on my deacon father's face and my choir director mother's face, mother in the church, to hear their daughter. I mean, you look around and you wonder, they called me by my middle name, Marie. It's like you couldn't hear a pin drop, and then all of a sudden, my mother's marching down through there as I leave the church, and I'm headed outside to ask me, what is wrong with you? And so she brought me back into church. I still went to church every Sunday because going to church was not an option. I still went to church every Sunday, but in my heart, I was no longer a part of it.
Until you find yourself behind those locked doors. What happened to your faith in there? I mean, because one of the things that's amazing about your book is the way that God used you in prison it's like you blossomed in prison. It's like God took you to prison to set you free.
That's absolutely right. I never understood. I always loved Jesus all of my life. I grew up I can't remember a time that I didn't love Him. I wrote my very first poem at the age of 10 years old. And my teachers realized that I had a gift. I could write. And it was about God. It was called Who Is He?
It's in the book.
It's beautiful, actually,
It's called Who Is He? And when I went to prison, that gift that was laying dormant was stirred up. And I picked up my pen. It's like the Lord asked Moses, what is that in your hand? It was a rod. And it was that question was, what is that in your hand? It's a pen, use it.
Wow.
And I started writing plays. And
For the prisoners?
For the prisoners.
That's brilliant.
I wrote faith-based plays. I wrote all kind of plays, but mainly faith-based plays. My first full production play, The Life and Passion of Jesus Christ.
Wow.
100 cast members, including artists, singers, dancers, women who had been told that they could do nothing all of their lives, all of a sudden were being applauded.
Wow.
And can you imagine what that means to someone who has never in their life been applauded for doing something? And so they started blooming, and it started having a domino effect all over the prison. I can't tell you just